I'm Ashleigh Morgan. I'm the Head of IT Quality and Risk at Easyjet. So not a natural people development person, but we'll come on to the reason that I'm standing here today rather than someone from our Inclusion and Wellbeing team. I'm also a non-exec director for a very local to me CIC called Youth Inspired, which helps people who are aged between 16 and 25 who struggle with the normal education college and university, get into the workplace without going through that formal method of education. And I'm also what we call an Easyjet, Diversity, Inclusion and Wellbeing Trailblazer, and I'll come on to that shortly as to what that means. So at Easyjet, we are passionate to create an inclusive and energising environment where everyone can be themselves. We're really still at the beginning of this journey because, like many of us in the room, a big fat pandemic came and got in the way of us starting out on this. But actually, what that pandemic has done for us is also helped us with our focus on our colleagues' well-being. So as well as the inclusive environment, we've had to look at our ways of working and how we can continually evolve the journey and making an inclusive environment something for the future and not just for now. So today I'm just going to talk you through some of the actions we've been taking to support our colleagues and make an influence for the future of the travel industry. So this slide that you can see describes the purpose of our people development team, which encompasses talent, early careers, learning and development, and inclusion and wellbeing. This purpose describes the employee experience that we want our colleagues across Easyjet to recognise, and it underpins creating the environment where everyone can be themselves to learn and to grow. With regards to inclusion and wellbeing, we really know that this is a fundamental, foundational piece across all elements of the employee experience and the life cycle at Easyjet. So whenever we talk about inclusion and wellbeing in any of our slides and purpose, you'll always see it as a foundational element right across the bottom. So with this in mind, we have an internal video that talks about giving everyone a warm welcome and ensuring that we all take the time to listen, to care and include all of our colleagues. We know that how our colleagues feel make a really big difference, and it's actually the small things that make that big difference. So we need to take time to show that we care about each other. But also importantly, just like an airline analogy, we also need to know when's best to put our own oxygen masks on first.
We're proud of our roots.
And to fly nearly 100 million customers a year.
To more than 30 countries.
Being as diverse
as the millions of customers we fly every year matters.
Because the difference we all bring
will make us more successful.
That's why we're all about giving everyone a warm welcome.
I will make sure everyone feels included.
I am friendly and approachable to the rest of the crew and our customers.
I'm always here to listen if you need someone.
I'll treat people as I expect to be treated myself.
I will always encourage my team to have fun.
A warm welcome at Easyjet means we can be ourselves.
Have a voice.
And that we all care about each other.
We believe care is at the heart of creating an inclusive and energising environment.
We should all make sure we care enough
to notice when something is wrong.
And make sure we ask the question,
are you okay?
In the good times and the bad.
Because we know that how we feel matters.
I will support people who are less confident.
I'll make sure everyone has a voice and their opinions matter.
My door is always open.
I will respect people's differences.
We've all got different experiences that are part of who we are and make our story.
And it's how we treat each other.
How open-minded we are.
And how we show we care that affects how we feel about coming to work.
On a busy shift, we all look after each other.
I will support others with their development without prejudice.
I will always keep an open mind.
I always ask how my team feel, and I genuinely listen to the answer.
I'll challenge our business to go further, and I'll personally embrace this every day.
We all have a role to play.
How will you show you care?
Small things make a big difference.
What small thing will you do?
So linking all of this work together is our inclusion and wellbeing strategy, which has really developed over the last 2 years. We've got 5 pillars of focus, which bring the activity all together. And against these pillars, we also make annual commitments, which we report against in our annual report, which is publicly available on the website and is a really key piece of information we feed to our investors. Across the top, leadership. We know that we need leaders who recognise the importance of inclusion and well-being, and we also need to help them navigate the changing needs of our colleagues, the business and the society now more than ever. Firm foundations, which was actually the first pillar that we focused on, ensures, to the point that was made earlier, that we need to understand the data and the demographics of our people. We're designing appropriate policy and processes to support everyone and ensuring we listen to the feedback of our people. Through this work, we've increased our diversity in declarations, we've introduced new policy, and we've now set up some new focus groups. For open and honest communication, we're creating a brand identity, which I'll come on to more on the next slide, that means that all of our activity internally is linked together with our strategy, keeping an identity that everyone across the company can recognise, no matter where they sit in the business, through our communications and our campaigns, and encourages everyone to get involved in the conversation and be respectfully curious. From this work, we've created an open chat network within the business where people can share local events, education, and celebrations. We also use our engagement survey feedback to specifically understand how our people feel on a quarterly basis about inclusion and wellbeing at Easyjet so that we can continually focus on the things that matter. When we're increasing confidence and capability, whether that's mental health matters, understanding differences and diversity, or bringing together teams to educate each other, we recognise that sometimes this can be really uncomfortable. And people are also afraid to get things wrong, and that makes them not interact. We're trying to help people get comfortable with being uncomfortable, being respectfully curious, as I mentioned before, and make sure we've got an environment where people are curious to learn more and they feel that they are open to learn. We're starting to share loads of stories about our own people and working with experts on learning plans, introducing toolkits, and supporting self-learning. All of this is underpinned by our supporting services and partners, and they really are our experts. We know we've got loads to do in this space, and we've got loads to learn. It's only by learning from others and learning about best practice and new developments that we'll be able to make the best impact. Now, across all of these elements is our trailblazer community that I mentioned earlier, and that really makes this invaluable. Our trailblazers, me, and there's another two here today, are volunteers who are supporting this agenda. There's absolutely loads of us. And we are working totally all different jobs, so I'm in IT. And we are trying to make a difference using our experiences and preferences, but all learning together to create a common understanding and conversation. I'm going to drop the corporate for a minute and just give a little bit of explanation as to why I've got involved in being a trailblazer, and one of the reasons that we've got someone from the trailblazer community standing here today rather than from our inclusion team. In 2012, really sadly, myself and my husband, our daughter passed away. And I took a little bit of time off work, 6 months. And when I went back to work, I hadn't told anybody. So people thought that I'd gone on maternity leave. And this wasn't Easyjet, so don't ring the sun. So I went back to work. That wasn't malicious. They wanted to respect my journey and my space. But what I actually did is I walked into a psychologically not safe environment because I was having to open up about that, unprompted, quite unexpected, and put other people in an uncomfortable situation. That is horrible to be that person to ask that question. That was really, really tough. No one had done it on purpose. On top of that, they'd then taken some of my responsibility from my role away because they were uncertain as to whether I was mentally in a capacity to be able to deal with that. Again, totally not malicious, trying to do the right thing for me, but hadn't included me in the conversation. But I couldn't put my finger on what that feeling was. So I just, in the whole sweep up of all the emotions that you can imagine, I just put it down to that. Very much lighter story. A couple of years later, I had a little boy after that, and he's now 9, and he's a mini version of me, my poor husband. He's got a nightmare. I work in IT, which is a really heavily male-dominated environment, and particularly I work in IT risk, which is real cyber security and all that really boring stuff as well. And we were out for just team drinks. And there's a whole group of us, and I was the only female there. And one of the guys had gone to the toilet and the waitress came over and said, "What does everyone want to drink?" And I said, "Oh, we should probably wait for Dan." And the guy next to me put his arm around me and he went, "Oh, the mum in the group." Well, I won't tell you what I thought. It was very rude. However, I had that feeling again in a very different way, but I had that feeling of, hang on a minute, I feel really lonely, but I'm not the only one in the room. And again, I really couldn't put my finger on it. So years and years later, fast forward, I come to Easyjet. And about 3 years ago is when we really started pulling the Trailblazer community together. And I thought, well, I'm going to volunteer for that because I'm a female in a male-dominated industry in two ways, travel and IT. I'm working at that point, to the conversations earlier, a working mum trying to juggle this really sassy, at the time, 5-year-old boy who just was turning into a miniature me more and more by the second and trying to deal with that. But actually, when I walked into the first session that we had together, we did an experiment. Some of you might have seen it on YouTube, and if you haven't, I really recommend you look it up. There was a Danish experiment where they get everybody to stand separately, a lot of you nodding, and ask you to just step into the circle if you fit into certain boxes. We did that, and the very last question, so some of you may have recognised Sophie Deckers from the video. She's absolutely brilliant, and obviously she's all over the press all the time for EasyJet. Her very last question was, has anyone ever felt left out? And it was the only question that absolutely everybody stepped into the middle. And without sounding really cheesy, like I'm auditioning for X Factor, it was at that moment I realised what that feeling was that I'd felt before. And I thought, I am here as a female, and I am here as a working mum. I'm actually here because that's the feeling that I don't want to have ever again, and I want to know how to deal with that and make sure my team don't feel like it, how to teach my son and my husband not to be a dick. And that is why I'm a trailblazer, and all of our trailblazers, that's me taking the corporate hat off. But all of our trailblazers are real. So this is a corporate strategy, and I'm going to put the hat back on and carry on in a second. But they're all really real and all have something to bring. And I think that's the difference that it's making, is that we're really driving this within people in different jobs and taking their real experiences and trying to bring that to life. So, there we go. Thank you. So, our internal brand, that I mentioned before all of that, You Matter, this really brings all of our activity together. It's become synonymous with talking about how we look after ourselves, how we look after each other, and create the environment for everyone to thrive. We use this in all of our documents, our communications, our recruitment, and we have a You Matter hub where all the relevant support tools and documents are stored for easy access for all of our people. So that gives you a taste of some of our internal focus areas, and I don't think any of you need a reminder that there are plenty of papers to tell us why all of this is important. We know at EasyJet that this simply is the right thing to do. Our customers, our colleagues, and the society expect the focus on inclusion and well-being. And we are a company, so we know it commercially makes sense. An engaged and healthy workforce are way more productive, which encourages way more innovative ideas, and ultimately that then makes us more profitable. And God knows we need that in the current climate. So knowing this is the right thing to do for all the right reasons, we also have to think about how we influence the future. We know that the travel industry, we all know that the travel industry is an amazing place to work. And we want to make sure we excite the next generations to think the same. Some of you hopefully have seen this before, but during the pandemic, while schools were closed and parents were juggling homeschooling, furlough, the cats, the dogs, all of the stuff we've mentioned earlier, we created a flight size series on YouTube as an opportunity to keep kids excited and engaged in learning whilst times were particularly tough.
Hello, I'm Captain Iris.
Hello, I'm Captain Bridge.
And we are pilots with EasyJet.
You may have wondered how planes fly, especially as they weigh up to 500 tons.
That's the equivalent of 250 elephants. And we all know elephants can't fly. They don't have passports.
In order for a plane to fly, it needs 4 things.
Wings, that's kind of obvious.
Thrust, that's the engines that propel it forward.
Air, the movement of the air over the shape of the wings, creates lift that makes it leave the ground.
And drag, changing the force of the air to slow the plane down.
Try this experiment. Hold a piece of paper like this, see the curve, just like a wing, and now gently blow on the top and see how it lifts up. Let's look at those elements again. No, I said elements.
The wings are thicker at the front and thinner at the back, which makes the air move faster over the wings.
Trust, that's the speed it travels. It takes off at about 115 miles per hour.
As it climbs, it accelerates to around 300 miles an hour, which is the maximum speed. Did you know that there is a speed limit in the sky?
And then we cruise through the air at around 500 miles per hour. In order to slow the plane down, we either raise the nose or make the wing bigger to create more lift.
Look at the shape of a bird's wing and see what happens when it comes into land. The shape changes.
And that's how planes fly. Easy.
A plane is just like a metal bird, but bigger with nicer snacks on board.
Now it's your turn. Paper airplanes fly because your throwing arm creates the thrust and the air moves over the wings to create lift. See if you can make a paper airplane, experiment with the shape and size of the wings, and see what difference it makes. Good luck!
Ultimately, across all our work, we want to ensure that everyone recognises their superpower of being different. Being unique means we can all add value, creative input, different perspectives and opportunities to enhance our services, products and performance. To do that, we need to create the psychologically safe environment where people can be themselves and recognise the value that they add. This messaging is reinforced and supported day-to-day fashion by our Trailblazer community that I've mentioned earlier. This year, we've completed our first recognition award for our Trailblazers, and it was really amazing to see the sentiments included in the award nominations to describe our community. This image, obviously shaped like an aeroplane, captures them, and I'm sure you'll agree it's really heartwarming to read the sentiments, and it made our team feel really proud of the work that we do and the impact that we're having across Easyjet. So as part of our work to influence the future, we know we need to continue also to challenge social stereotypes. You might be familiar with our work in this space before, when we launched a video called Catch Up If You Can, which was a tongue-in-cheek version of Catch Me If You Can, as a specific challenge from Easyjet to the movie industry to stop reinforcing social stereotypes. So with the launch of the new Top Gun movie this year, we've taken the opportunity to do it again. Using children from our own employees, we produced our own tongue-in-cheek Maverick movie, but with a serious undertone below to challenge the stereotypes of who can be successful in aviation roles.
On their holiday all across Europe. You two Mavericks are going to be training for Easyjet. Are you ready? Yes, Captain! Easy 2410. What's your position? I'm sitting down and about to use a ham and cheese toaster. Easy 2410. Clear to land. Another perfect flight. Congratulations. Now get your butts back to base. This is Easy 2410 requesting a celebratory fly past. Negative. We have 200 passengers. We need to get to Malaga before cocktail hour.
I love that video. So Mavericks is just the latest in our history of challenging the stereotypes. I mentioned Catch Up If You Can, our other video, and they're all available on YouTube. We previously launched our Amy Johnson initiative to move the dial on female pilots. We launched the Aviation Brownie Badge, and we're focusing on school visits, all of this in order to educate the next generation and keep on challenging the historical stereotypes. And finally, we know we need to go further, not just with inclusion and wellbeing, but how this links to our ESG agenda. we're taking a much more coordinated link, like many are now, with the sustainability agenda at Easyjet, and making sure not only are we influencing change within our business, but influencing the priorities for the future of travel and future generations so that everyone can enjoy travel as much as we all do.
Here at Easyjet Holidays, we're on a mission to make sure sustainable travel is accessible to everyone without passing the cost on to you or costing the Earth. While we've already announced our commitment to offset the carbon emissions associated with the fuel from your flights, transfers, and the energy from hotel stays, that's just the start. We're embarking on our own journey too. We're making positive changes to boost the natural environments and wildlife of many of our favourite places. On top of that, we've made commitments to support local livelihoods and help communities develop. We want to provide alternative, more sustainable choices, not just in where you go, but in what you do when you get there. So you can be sure that whilst you're having the time of your life, you're also helping the planet and the people that make your destination so special. We want to set an example for the entire travel industry because it's only together that we can make a real difference. So, if you're looking for a brilliant break that gives more than it takes, it all begins here. Easyjet Holidays. Holidays that don't cost the Earth.
Now, I don't know if we have time for questions, and I'm sure everyone's really hungry. That is fine. That is absolutely fine. Grab me during your well-deserved lunch. Thank you.